You can use, we're going to work, sweet, you remembered, yeah. So a couple of cans of something can work great as little weights. Or if you have little dumbbells, those are terrific. We won't use the TheraBand today, we'll probably do that next week. If you would like a little more weight, you can take a water bottle and fill it with water. This one's not full. But if you have like a liter water bottle and you fill it full, that's 2 pounds. So that's, it's a nice way. Like most cans of food, the regular size, those are 15 ounces, so almost a pound. That would be 2 pounds. And then if you have a small dumbbell like this one, that's 3 pounds. So it kind of gives you a nice gradation to play with, because sometimes it's nice for different things to have slightly different weights. So having a variety can be really helpful. If you're not sure, always start at the low end and slowly work up, especially if you still have active scar tissue, or you're still fatigued from chemo or whatever sort of challenges we experience as we go through this journey, right? And only you will know what will be appropriate for your body. But the big request I have is that you work with deep discernment when we start working with added weight, so that you don't overdo it. Now, don't underdo it either, right? Check. Alrighty, so that's the variety of toys. That's the big disclaimer. Start with low weight or no weight even, and slowly work up as you sort of feel comfortable in your own body. So you've gathered by now that we are in a new month, and this month is dedicated to working with strength. And yes, exactly. I love that. And that strength will be expressed in our bodies. It will be expressed in our breath, not through like heavy breathing or chest breathing, but through a very resilient breath that actually stays as much as possible through the nose. This is a common misperception that people have, is that when you work harder, it's better to breathe through the mouth, but that's not the case. It really is, breathing through the nose is your best bet, even under exertion. Even if you're a runner or a fast walker, get in the habit of only breathing through the nose. You get actually way more oxygen into your tissues that way, and your breath is more efficient. You're not wasting as much air when you breathe through the nose than when you breathe through the mouth. So there are all kinds of wonderful reasons. And if you're really curious about them, that can be a conversation we have another time. So a strong breath is not a breath that's heavy into the chest or through the mouth. A strong breath is a resilient breath, which means it may get a little bit faster and a little bit more voluminous with exertion, right? That's really, really natural. And then it can resettle itself during the break between our bouts of doing some strength work. And in terms of building strength in the body and building strength in the bones, that rest period is as important, maybe not quite, but it is very important. Because if you get too sympathetically aroused and you start getting a lot of cortisol going, because your sympathetic nervous system gets activated, cortisol actually interferes with laying down new bone. So you don't really want to do that, right? So you want to work hard, and then you want to resettle your nervous system, get your heart rate down, get your breath nice and nasal and smooth and soft, and then we'll go ahead again. So this is like the rationale for working hard and then slowing down, working hard, slowing down. This is also one of the reasons why we always end our yoga classes with a few minutes of just calm silence or meditation. It allows your system to re-regulate and then to really absorb the benefits of the practice, so that when you walk out of a yoga class, you actually really want to feel very settled, strong, but very settled in your breath and in your nervous system. So strength in the body, resilience in the breath, and then also capacity for coping and thriving in the mind. And of course, by now you're totally familiar with the fact that we always work with all of those layers, right? We always work with body, breath, and mind. We never work on just one thing. And so this month is exactly the same. Yeah, so that's my preamble for this month and for where we're headed. And yeah, so let's get started with our opening centering. So as always, just find your spot. You could be lying down, you could be seated in a chair, you could be seated on the floor, whatever serves you in this moment. And invite yourself to arrive. To arrive in this moment, to arrive in this space. And to arrive in this beautiful community that comes together every Thursday morning to find support, resilience, and strength together in community. And as you get settled in, make your discerning choices about how you would like to place your eyes and your hands, always considering how that resonates into your nervous system, or how that decision is guided by your nervous system. And then arrive in your body, allowing yourself a moment to check in with what you are bringing in your physical being today. Not looking for anything in particular, not creating anything, but just noticing what is present. Perhaps sort of scanning into the entirety of your physical being, just as it is in this moment. And then invite yourself to ground into the earth, to let yourself be very settled in whatever shape you have chosen, whether the entire back body is supported by the earth or whether it's your sits bones, your legs. Allow yourself to feel that settled and grounded sensation of entrusting your body to the earth, however directly or indirectly. And perhaps notice your own strength, your own stability as you ground in this way. Settled, balanced, harmonious, and supported by the ground beneath you. Your body is a beautiful foundation, and it is beautifully supported by the earth. And take a moment perhaps to appreciate this relationship between your body and the earth that allows you to feel very grounded and very settled. And holding that strong image of your body connected to the earth in your awareness, gently draw your attention to the breath and just notice how your breath, your vitality, your energy is unfolding in this moment. Not looking for anything in particular and certainly not creating anything, but just coming with curiosity and compassion into a mind state of really looking at the breath and how it is traveling in, perhaps pausing, traveling out, perhaps pausing. noticing the rhythm of your breath without trying to change anything. And perhaps noticing the reliability of the breath. Inhalations coming, exhalations going. Perhaps ponder the beautiful features of the nose that so support a resilient breath by slowing the air down as it travels in through the nostrils, filtering it, cleansing little particles out of it, cleansing it of bacteria and viruses, even little fungal spores. Warming it for its journey into the body. And then perhaps ponder the exhalation, the breath traveling out of the body through the nose, re-warming the nose that otherwise would stay cool from only cool air ever traveling in and no warm air traveling out. So your breath out re-warms that nose. It also cleanses the little cilia, the little hairs in your nose of particles that you earlier breathed in. So there's kind of an important cycle that happens here too. And so let yourself envision that cycle of a beautiful, resilient nasal breath. Air traveling in, breath traveling out, supporting your body by adapting its rhythm to the body or inviting the body to adapt to its rhythm. It works in both directions. And then imagine your breath constantly being replenished, not just because of the air you breathe in, but the vitality that pulses through all of us, the life force that moves through all of us and enjoins all of us. And perhaps that vitality is a slightly more subtle experience of energy, a pulsation or a vibration in your body. Maybe something that you sense not just coming in and out through the airways, but through the very pores of your being. We sense each other's energy. We sense the energy of a room. This is also part of your vitality and can become part of your strength. This is in part why we practice in community, because we can help each other regulate even something as basic as the rhythm of our breath, the resilience of our breathing. And perhaps holding that image of the body supported by the earth and the breath nourished by life force. Gently check in with your mind to notice what mind state is present for you this morning. To know there's thoughts or stories or narratives that are on the mat or on the chair with you. And just open your heart to whatever is present in your mind. Our mind can be very opinionated, so notice if there are some opinions or attitudes that are in the foreground. And perhaps invite a strong mind in the sense of a mind that is wide open to new learning, to new information, to new ways of understanding old information. A mind that is willing, a mind that is present, a mind that wants to be with body and breath. to facilitate thriving for the entirety of you. And when body, breath, and mind come together in this way, we can move into our wisdom, our deeper intuitive knowing that may guide you to, okay, which level of weight will I use, if any? How long will I hold or try something? And so allow yourself to really bring that wisdom into play during yoga sessions when there is a bit more effort and a bit more demand. Let your wisdom guide you so that you neither overdo nor underdo. Our bodies, our breath, our mind thrive from a bit of effort, and then they thrive from a release and a sense of ease. And so from this knowledge that you have this deep inner wisdom that can guide you, maybe there's a bit of joy about what's ahead, or maybe there's more trepidation for you. Either is fine. But wherever you are and however you are in this moment, if it serves you, I invite you to bring your hands to your heart as you bow your head to your heart, to call to mind an intention or a quality that you would like to cultivate on the mat today. This is not a desire for an outcome or a particular result. It is an openness to explore something that seems meaningful to you. If such an intention or quality arises for you, you might choose to seal it into your heart with your next nasal breath in. And then you might choose to send it outward into your community of choice with your next breath out. And whenever you feel ready to do so, you can release your hands if they were lifted. You can open your eyes if they were closed, and lift your gaze if it was lowered, and welcome everyone. So we will actually just go ahead and come to standing, all of us. And we will just take a couple of rounds of sun breath from a standing position today. Sun breath being, of course, the breath where we use the inhalation to guide the arms up and the exhalation to guide the arms down. So you will move in the rhythm of your breath. You could, if you feel balanced, close your eyes and truly let the movement and the rhythm of the breath guide the movement of your arms. So that not the body movement is primary, but the breath rhythm is primary. Really allowing yourself to sense into your vitality, into your energy, and into your breath, and then using the breath as a guidepost for how you would like to move. This is always helpful, but it is particularly helpful when you're embarking on something, some journey that may be a bit challenging. Because if you stay attuned to your breath, you will notice when you need to slow down and when you can make more effort. The breath is a built-in biofeedback mechanism. And so today the breath can be your guide as you make decisions about how quickly to move, how long to move, how long to hold, what level of weight to use. The next time your arms are traveling down by your side, you can keep them there and just take a moment to be there, to appreciate how your body was guided by the breath. And then find a chair if you don't already have one. Ideally not a wheelie chair. If it is a wheelie chair, make sure you put the back of the chair against the wall so it can't wheel away from you. If you don't have a chair, you could use a bookcase. You could use the wall, and I'll show you how you would do that. Or you could be on the floor on all fours in what in yoga we call tabletop. So you would be on the floor like this, okay? But if you have a chair, and this is how I'll show it, you will actually stay standing, so you don't have to come to the knees. And you will use kind of our sun salute flow to bring your hands to your chair. So we'll do the sun breath of inhaling the arms up and then exhaling to fold forward. If you're on the floor in tabletop, you're just in tabletop for the moment. And then let the hands come to rest on the chair. And so now this is a standing tabletop position. So if you're kneeling on the ground in tabletop, you're essentially in the same shape. You're just on your knees instead of on your feet. And then from here, very gently allow the breastbone, the sternum, to drop toward the earth. There won't be a whole lot of visible movement on the outside. You're just kind of letting your heart, and I'll try to show this like this from here, your heart kind of drops down, and then you press the chair away. So you really press the hands into the chair, and your sternum will draw up. So this is, I call this shoulder flossing. We're basically dropping the chest between the arms and then pressing the chair away to draw the chest up, and your back between your shoulder blades will round just a little bit. So it's not a full cat and cow, which is often what we do in this tabletop. It's a movement that's much higher in the chest, and it's really there more to mobilize your shoulder joint, where your arm bone meets your shoulder blade, and also to mobilize the whole shoulder blade on your back. So you'll probably feel your shoulder blades moving toward each other on your back as your breastbone drops toward the chair, and then you'll probably feel them separate as you press the chair away with your hands and kind of round the upper back. One more time. And then come to neutral. So now your shoulder blades are basically on your back, but they're not efforting toward one another. Your sternum is neutral, your low back is neutral, so you'll probably have that little bit of a lordotic curve in your lumbar spine. So in your low back, you're going to be curved downward a little bit. There'll probably be a little outward curve in your upper spine where your rib basket is. And then, whether you're on the ground or standing, slide your left hand so that it's on the chair or on the ground directly under your nose. And bring more of the weight into the left hand so that your right hand can float freely, exactly. And then let the right arm kind of dangle. If you're on the chair, that works well. If you're on the floor, the right hand will rest on the ground. And then wait for your inhalation. Bend your left knee a little bit if you're standing, and open up your heart as you inhale and turn along the length of your spine. Your gaze could follow the arm. As you exhale, the arm comes down, and just repeat this a few times. Inhaling yourself tall and open. Maybe the gaze follows the fingers, if that feels okay for your neck. And you could even reach all the way through to the left with that right hand, bending the right knee a bit, and turn essentially to both sides. But you don't have to do that. Just notice what range of motion is comfortable for you. And maybe your arm won't be as high as some that you might see on the screen. Maybe your arm just comes slightly out toward the side. This is where that feedback from the breath is really helpful. If the breath gets dysregulated, you're probably trying too hard, and that's really not that necessary. Couple more times, so finish the round you're on and then take one more. And when you have turned up to the right for that second time, when you come back this time, let the hand come back to the surface, whether it's a chair or the floor, and rest for a moment before you jump to the other side. The mind may be ready to jump ahead, but give a moment to the breath and the body to catch up. And then whenever you're ready, slide the right hand now under the nose, either on the chair or on the earth, and let the left arm dangle for a moment. It's really nice to take this step by step, nice and slow, to let the body kind of get the idea. Wait for an inhalation, bend the right knee, lift through the left arm to any degree. With the exhalation, perhaps slide through to the other side. Repeating this for a few rounds, very luxuriously, enjoying the movement in the spine, and enjoying even that pressing of the hand into the earth. That's bringing a little bit of load already into your right arm. Let those knees bend dynamically if you're standing. This is a much more joyful way to rotate the spine than to anchor the hips in place or to force the legs to be straight. Functional movement is much more dynamic than some of the ways in which some yoga shapes are traditionally taught. So let yourself be dynamic. Finish the round you're on and take one more. So after you've reached up to the left, when you return, bring the hand back to the surface. Take a moment to notice your breath. And then, if you are on the earth, find your way to standing. If you are standing at the chair, yogi's choice of how you rise up, a really nice way is to bring your hands very gently to the low back, kind of right over the SI joint, that junction between the sacrum and the hips. And then with an inhalation, let yourself rise up with a natural spine, so not rounded. And allow yourself to arrive here through a very slow, deliberate movement to prevent any dizziness, right, from getting up too fast. All right, from here, I invite you to grab whatever weight you would like. You don't have to grab any if you're not in the mood for that, okay? So start with something that seems reasonable for you. Maybe you start with your soup cans. Maybe you start with nothing, just to sort of get a sense of, oh, what do I want today? And then find a slightly wider stance than you might normally have, right? Because you tend to have a bit more stability with a wider stance. We talked about that, in fact, last month, right? When we worked a bit on balance. And then very gently just begin to do a little bit of punching, not in an aggressive way, but in an exploratory way. And now you're using a very similar rotation in the spine where the knees are staying kind of dynamic, but you're adding a little bit of effort here by having the weight in your hand, by bringing the punch into the movement, and you get to decide how strongly you will punch. And you can decide just how much of a knee bend you would like to bring into the movement. So you could almost come into a mini start of a squat as you punch your soup can or your tomato can or your water bottle or whatever it is. And then if you'd like a little bit of variety in how you do this, you could begin to punch high for a few times, so not straight out, but kind of diagonally up, and or low, where now you reach down toward the ground with your can. All slightly different demands. These are great ways to warm up your spine. And then if you really want to get exciting, you could vary it up and go low then high, then straight out, and make a little bit of a pattern. Give your brain a little bit of a workout too. Now the mind has to stay very focused to remember, oh, what did I do? Okay, I went low on the last one. I'm going high on this one. So 2 more rounds with all 6 movements if they work for you. And then when you have finished those 2 rounds, you can come simply to standing either with the weights in your hand, or you can place the weights on your chair. Or you can keep punching if you're in the mood. So yogi's choice. But it's kind of nice to allow your breath to re-regulate, and in fact that might be a reason to let go of the cans so that you can bring your hands to your heart to feel your breath, right? To feel your heartbeat. And to notice, oh yeah, that did increase my sympathetic arousal a little bit. My heart's beating a little faster. The breath is moving with a little bit more vigor. And so this is our rest period now, when we allow our nervous system to re-regulate, our heartbeat to calm, our breath to soften. And then ponder, did you breathe through the nose? Or did you forget? Let the breath, let your vitality, your energy be your guide as to when you are ready to continue. I will go ahead and show the next movement. That doesn't mean you have to do it, okay? Decide what kind of weight you would like to use. If the can punching was pretty easy, maybe you're ready to go a little bit higher. You can always play with that and then change your mind, right? If you ever start with too high of a weight, don't force yourself. Just switch. Put the big one down and take the little one. All right, and I would say continue to stay standing if you can for the extra oomph, but you could totally do this next thing seated on a chair if you would prefer. Start with the arms just naturally by your side and allow yourself to sort of feel your shoulder girdle settling toward the earth. You want to keep that kind of relaxed location of the shoulder girdle. Sometimes with this next thing that we'll do, people shrug their shoulders up around their ears. That's not necessary. So you could even wiggle the shoulders out a little bit to make sure that you're coming from this sort of very relaxed place. And then turn your palms forward and keep your elbows tucked in by your side as you begin to lift and lower your weights for some bicep curls. Just a very gentle warm up for the arms here. And just notice if that tension wants to creep into the shoulder girdle, and invite yourself to stay very relaxed in the shoulders. And then notice if you can continue to breathe through the nose. And if you can feel a bit of a sense of, at the end of the exhalation, your belly kind of drawing in, the belly button drawing toward the spine a bit, and maybe the pelvic floor lifting up into your body. So we're actually adding a little extra effort here on the exhalation. So you might find a really natural rhythm where one set of movements, whether it's down or up, happens with the inhale, and the opposite with the exhale, coordinated with that little bit of extra oomph of drawing the belly button in and the pelvic floor up at the end of the exhale. You You might notice that deepens your exhalation a bit. That's very deliberate. It's a very slight bracing in the belly that protects your low back when you are weight bearing. And then you can let go of that movement. And I'll show this next one, but you can also check in with yourself to make sure that your heart rate is appropriate, that your breath is nice and subtle. Probably this movement didn't dysregulate you too much unless you really had a way too heavy weight, because of that little bit of extra oomph that we created in the breath. But in case it did, then feel very free, right, to rest for a moment. And then we'll use the chair again. You can place one of your weights on the chair, and then place your left hand on the seat of the chair and allow the right hand to dangle. So we're kind of right back to where we were with our rotations earlier, only this time, well, we could rotate here. Why don't we just do that a couple times? Same movement as we did earlier, but with a weight, just for you to feel the difference here in that, and to know that, oh, this is not so much a warm-up variation of this, but maybe more of a strength variation. And then that was just a little trial run for you. What we're really going to do here are some rows. So you're going to be in your natural spine. This is really key, right? You don't want to be rounded here. You want to have the natural curves of your spine. And that's where you need that little bit of a belly tuck that we did at the end of the exhale with your bicep curls. So you kind of want to have that sense of the belly button drawing toward the spine and the pelvic floor drawing up to create a little bit of intra-abdominal pressure. And then begin to row your weight up and down. The slower you move, so do this perhaps with a nice gentle breath, the more you work. You could even pause at the top and the bottom of the breath and have a pause in the movement. And you might notice that when you move more slowly, you exert more effort, and you might actually get tired a little bit faster in your muscles. If we move with momentum, we don't create as much strength as when we move very slowly and deliberately. So strength training is also a great way to practice patience and movement coordinated with breath. Couple more times. If you're feeling really rambunctious and you'd like to end with a couple more rotations out to the side, you can do that. Otherwise, you would lay your weight down on the chair, and if you've done a couple rotations already, you could do that. Lay the weight down on the chair, bring the hands to the low back just like we did earlier, and very mindfully come to standing. So being as careful and kind with your body and your breath during transitions as you are during the movements. Often people get hurt in the transition from one side to the other because they stop paying attention. And so make the journey as much fun as the destination. You could check in with yourself to see if you're ready for the other side. I will go ahead and move us on, but please don't feel driven to come along if your nervous system, if your breath is saying, I'm not ready. And bring the right hand now to the chair, so shift yourself over. Let the left hand dangle, and then yogi's choice, you can choose to take that rotational movement for just a couple of rounds, just for the fun of it, because you did it without weight earlier and your body's familiar with it, so it might work quite well with a weight now. And then when you are ready, you can find your alignment for your rows on the other side. So settle yourself into your natural spine. Find that slight drawing in of the belly button toward the spine, the drawing in of the pelvic floor, and you might even imagine that you're turning your legs out. We call this external rotation, but they're not moving on the outside. It's completely isometric, but you might feel your glutes firing up a little bit in your bum. And then whenever you are ready, you can start rowing with the left hand. Nice and slow with the breath, really appreciating the wisdom of slow movement. Movement guided by breath. So maybe there are little pauses. If you feel yourself tiring, before I call quits, you can always take a break. You can either take a couple more rows, or you could end with 2 more of those rotational movements. So yogi's choice. And whenever you are complete, you can place that weight on the chair, bring your hands to your low back, find your engagement, and rise up to standing. And this time, do bring your hands to your heart to notice what is happening for you here. Notice if you need a little bit of a recovery break, or if you're doing fine to move on. Always honoring what is present for you. If you later watch this as a recording, you could always pause the recording, right? It'll actually make it even more tailored for you if you need a longer break. But right now, just so that we get through a few more movements, I'm going to move us on. You don't have to join, right? We essentially will start in the same position, but this time, what will be different is your elbow will be tucked by your side. So on the earlier version, our elbow did this, right? Our whole arm moved in the row. In this next movement, the motion will just come from the elbow, which will work your tricep more. But you'll be in the same position, nice natural spine, left hand on the chair, right hand toward the earth, and then you straighten the elbow from here. This looks easier than the prior movement on the outside, but it's a lot harder on the inside. Do you feel that way too? Yeah. So 3 or 4 more, whatever you can handle here. And then take a moment to recover. You can bring the weight to the chair. You could come to the chair more centered, and maybe you feel like you'd like to take a little break and a bit of a downward facing dog at the chair. If you're on the earth, you could even take a down dog on the ground. Let your breath recover, or you could be in a child's pose if you're on the ground. Recover there. And then whenever you feel ready, you can come to the other side. So now the right hand is on the chair, the left arm is by your side, elbow tucked in. And so the movement is, and I'll show this like this so you can actually see the correct hand. So just pretend my hand's on the chair. The movement is just at the elbow. The primary joint that's moving is the elbow here. Nice work for your tricep. 3 or 4 more, or however many feel good for you. Maybe it's 1, maybe it's 10. And then when you have reached your auspicious limit, you can place that little weight back on the chair. Bring both hands to the chair and walk yourself back one more time to a down dog. If you're on the chair, if you're on the earth, you could be in a down dog, or you could be in a child's pose. Yogi's choice. Or of course, you can always take a seat on your chair and recover there. And notice how your breath is re-regulating itself in this little bit more unusual position for the body. When you feel ready, you can begin to walk your way closer to the chair, and then bring the hands to the low back and rise on up. Back to standing for one more movement of the arms with the weights, or not, right? Your yogi's choice. All right, here we are going to start in the same starting position as for the bicep curls. You can decide how wide apart you'd like to have your legs to feel really nice and stable in your body. And then the inhalation brings the arms up, and the exhalation brings the arms down. See if you can really extend the length of the exhalation, making that downward movement really, really slow. You could even use a bumblebee breath. Maybe finding a pause at the bottom. Maybe a pause at the top. This is a great movement to really begin to notice how much harder it is when you move slowly. If you do this with momentum, you can really just sort of muscle your way through it. But if you do this slow, you are really challenging your muscles, which means they will really tug on your arm bones and shoulder girdle bones to invite the osteocytes to give a signal. These are cells in your bones, a signal for the osteoblasts to start making new bone. So you want to move slowly and deliberately. When you are at the bottom, let your shoulder girdle relax. Remember, we want these movements to come from a relatively relaxed shoulder girdle. So no shrugging up around the ears, so that you don't create tension in the neck. 2 more if you have it. 1 more if you don't. None if you're just done. It's all good. Maybe make those last 2 extra long exhalations for a very slow descent against gravity. And then if you would like, you can release your weights to the chair And take a moment to check in with yourself. Maybe you leave the arms dangling this time and feel their weight, or maybe you wiggle out your shoulders a little bit. You might even want to take some shoulder circles, or remember the movements we did last week with the little chicken wings? Yeah, those could be really nice here, where you're kind of alternating side to side, just to release any possible tension. You can kind of have fun with this. It's kind of like being like a little kid again. Yeah, you can do all kinds of variations here. I love what I'm seeing on the screen. Lots of creative expression. That's so perfect. Yeah, maybe even some nice big arm swings. I'm copying some stuff I'm seeing on the screen. I so love it. Thank you guys. Love all the creativity there. All right, we are going to take one last movement. This time, your body is your weight, so you won't need your little weights anymore. And there are two variations of this, and this is just to bring a little bit of strength into the lower body now. Our main focus today was upper body, but we're going to end with a lower body strength building exercise. I'll show the chair variation first. If you would like to work with a chair, sit on the chair, plant your feet, maybe a little wider apart, just like we did in standing with the bicep curls. If you can, don't use your hands. Let the hands dangle by your side. Lean forward with that natural curve in your spine. So not rounding like this, but do you see the difference between what I'm saying? It's like, here's the natural curve in the spine and you're coming forward. You're not doing this to come forward. It makes a huge difference, right? You want that natural curve in the spine and come forward and stand up, no arms. And then down, same way. Natural curve, right? Not rounded forward, up and down. So that's the chair version. You're coming up and down from the chair. If you would like, you can also do this freestanding, but really be mindful to keep the natural curve of the spine, right? You don't want to round, and bring your hands to your heart for this version. And then same movement, except you're not coming to a chair. You're holding yourself in midair, and then you're rising back up from here for a few squats. The big thing here really is to keep your spine in its natural curves and the shoulders are relaxed. The breath can guide you, inhaling down, exhaling up. Or you could even inhale, hold, and then exhale when you're standing again. Yogi's choice. You kind of have to experiment with what works for you. If this feels really easy to you, you could take your two little hand weights or your two little soup cans and have them in your hand as you're coming up and down. You can also vary how far apart your legs are. So you can make that squat wider and wider. But the back stays in its natural curves. So not rounding down. It's tempting, but keep looking straight ahead of you. Yeah, and please stop whenever you feel ready to stop. These are lots, but and last two if you have them, but don't do it if you feel yourself dysregulating. Let your wisdom guide you here. And when you have risen up, if you have the weights in your hand, you can put them down either on the chair or on the ground and check in with yourself. Let yourself notice your heartbeat, the rhythm of your breath, the story in your mind. There's some new research that suggests that if you do 10 of these squats every hour, that's as good as taking a walk every day. I would say might be even better because it's more regular movement in small doses, and the intensity can be pretty high in terms of the impact on your breath. When you feel your heartbeat has re-regulated and your breath is flowing nice and silkily through the nose, you could take just a couple of little releases to the side if that feels luxurious to you. Just kind of balancing everything out. Maybe your eyes are even closed here if you feel very steady and balanced. And then if there are any other little movements you would like to make before you settle yourself in for the closing meditation, you could explore maybe some hula hoops, maybe a few marches where you're bringing one knee up and then the other knee up. Some of the things that we did last month, even some shoulder circles, whatever feels good for you. And as you do this, ponder how you would like to take your closing shavasana, and begin to ponder how you would like to transition there, whether it's to a chair or the floor. Maybe gathering up any props that you might need for that purpose. And then very gently beginning to settle yourself into place. And whenever you have arrived in your spot, make those same discerning decisions about how you would like to place your hands and your eyes as you check in with your body. Notice if anything has shifted in how you are experiencing your body in this moment compared to just 50 minutes ago. Not expecting change, but also not missing it if it's there. And perhaps even find a sense of gratitude for all your body invited you to do. And then once again, allow the body to become very heavy on the earth and trusting itself to the ground beneath you. Take a moment to scan into your breath, your energy, your vitality. Here too, just noticing if anything has shifted, transformed, evolved, without expecting change. But also noticing if it did occur. And then once again, invite the breath to simply breathe itself as it is guided by the flow of life force as it moves through all of us. And then check in with your mind, noticing perhaps if your mind state has shifted, even just the tiniest bit. If there are new stories or new thoughts. And And then invite your mind to surrender itself to your deeper inner wisdom that will bring you back to what needs coming back to later. As you then allow yourself to move into about a minute of silence until my voice brings you back. And very gently reawaken your senses to the outer and inner world. Perhaps you notice the air on your skin, the texture of your clothing, the aroma in your room, or the sounds around you. And perhaps you sense inward into the sensations arising from your body. Maybe you notice a bit of a need for some wiggles or shakes or stretches, or maybe your body wants to remain still. Just listen inward and heed whatever message comes to you. And then perhaps check in with your breath as a reflection of your vitality, of your energy in this moment. And perhaps give your breath the gift of your attention by really knowing that you're drawing breath in with your next inhalation. And truly knowing that you are releasing breath out with your next exhalation. And if you are lying on the earth and you would like to close the practice together in a seat, you could begin to rise toward a seat now, but you're always welcome to close the practice lying down. And if you are in a seat and it feels auspicious to do so, I invite you to bring your hands to your heart as you bow your head to your heart. To take a moment to see if there is a takeaway from the practice today. Something meaningful, something interesting, something you'd like to remember. And invite yourself to allow that takeaway to settle into your body, into your breath, into your mind. And if it lends itself, perhaps that takeaway can combine with the quality or the intention that you brought to the practice today to create a dedication of merit, from your time on the mat that serves a greater good. If such a dedication is emerging for you, you might choose to draw it into your own heart with your next breath in. And if you would like, you could choose to release that dedication silently outward into the greater web of life with your next breath out. And as always, thank you all so much. It's such a privilege and a joy to share these Thursday mornings of yoga with all of you. It's always lovely to see you and practice with you. And